What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday, September 15th, 2025. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Truck Parking Clubhouse. Hope you guys had a fantastic weekend out there, rolling straight into September strong. Before we get into today's Clubhouse, number one, big shout out to Troy Massey and everybody out in Nacogdoches, Texas. We had a great time at Old Town Rigdown. Stars, Stripes, Chrome was all out there. All the icons. The Goose was there. He had Wild Child out there. We had New Testament. We had a whole bunch of great iron out there. The live music was great. Tony Justice on scene. It's just a fantastic show. Great community event out there in East Texas, and getting to connect with some drivers. And we have even had some of our property members out there. Big shout out to Booker's Dude Ranch out there, Henderson, Texas. If you're ever traveling through, look them up. They've got one of the best. It's probably one of the best places you can park your truck at over there, Booker's Dude Ranch. But neither here nor there. Before we get rolling, number one, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, property count crossing over 2,800 properties this week. So super excited as we continue to add more properties, add more parking for you drivers out there. And once again, we're out about 39 minutes ago. Taillights just dropped into your inbox. You might have to check your spam every now and then. I got a couple newsletters like that. Check your spam box. Either way, what I can tell you is a lot of riffraff on Twitter this past week. A lot of buzz going on with the state of Nebraska, meeting with Kenyan delegates on some stuff going on there. And so we kind of break that down in the newsletter a little bit. We give cite some sources in there talking about that conversation. Also, some technology did a good thing. It helped with some cargo theft out there. So looking forward to seeing what Overhaul can do in the cargo theft space. Also, though, there is $95 worth of free truck parking and discounts in that newsletter. It's Trucker Appreciation Week. So shout out to you drivers out there. We've got a promo code $50 off truck parking, promo code thanks 2025. We've got a video ask instead of a survey this week. And then we've got our partner post of the week down there. So there's a plethora of discounts in this week's taillight. So go to your inbox, check it out. As you're route planning, you can instantly reserve and book free parking. You could book it out for the next week, 2 weeks, either way. But let's get in today's episode. We're going to talk some trucking with a red hot team out there. They call themselves Trailer Slinging. What's happening on this Monday? Slinging trailers.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. So Trailer Swinging, the Trailer Slinging. You got to, I guess before we get into it, where did the name come from? What made you coin that?
I don't know. It was just like someone just said, "Oh, you should be trailer slinging," and then someone on my CV said it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep that. That's mine now."
There we go. CB radio handles making it happen.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'd love to get in your story for a minute, but just so we know, so it's you, but you drive team with your husband, correct?
Yes. Yep.
That's awesome. I mean, well, let's dive right into that. So, I mean, number one, if you're comfortable, if you don't want to be known as Trailer Swinging, what's your first name?
I go by Joe, like a cup of coffee, which we all need, you know.
There we go.
Out here on the road.
Trailer Slinging with Joe. Well, I mean, hey, let's get right into it. You drive team. What's the Trailer Slinging story? Like, how did you and your husband get into trucking?
So I was the manager of FedEx, and he was a FedEx driver, but two different locations. I lived in Vegas, and he lived in California. And we met each other in school. So with FedEx, you had to go to school to move up. I was going to be a manager of line haul, right? And so I got that position offered, and he wanted to get his CDL. So they messed up my paperwork. I was supposed to go to Arizona. I ended up going to California, and I met my husband in school. Yeah.
The stars aligned.
It's a truck driver's love story, I swear.
Right there. Thanks to FedEx. So correct me if I'm wrong. You both went to CDL school in California.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. And so you met in CDL school.
Yeah, we met in school, and I didn't even know team driving was a thing. I was just gonna do this solo. I wanted to be a manager. I got offered that position. My manager was like a family friend for a long time, and none of the guys on my line wanted to get their CDL, and I was like, I'll do it. I'll get it. And then I went to school, and then I met my husband, and I never went back because we made more money together than I did being a manager at FedEx. So I just never went back.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask that kind of dynamic. So the reason why you went to CDL school. So if you didn't meet your husband, if you went to CDL school, where would you have gone? What was the plan from there? Were you going to still drive for FedEx?
Yeah, I wasn't just going to drive. I was going to be a manager of a fleet. So with FedEx, they contract. So it was a family friend who owns a route. And so he was starting to buy trucks, and he was the only one out of their line that got his CDL. He used to work for Coca-Cola. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get my CDL. That's fine, cuz I was starting to get bored. The smaller truck, I was like, I could do better. I could do bigger. Let's go for it. So I got my CDL.
No, that's awesome. It's an interesting dynamic. I knew that FedEx, they worked with contracted carriers, kind of similar to Amazon in a lot of ways. Although I think FedEx probably does FedEx is a little bit different where the trucks have to be white and stuff like that. But so
Yeah.
even to be a fleet manager for a carrier contract to FedEx, the fleet manager needed to have a CDL, or was that just like or is that what he wanted? Is that what
That's what
the
he wanted. I didn't really know too much of the logistics behind it. I was already training, like driver trainer. I was like a manager, driver trainer of like multiple people. So I was already like training like 5 to 10 drivers how to drive a box truck. And I was already, did the extended cab as big as you could with FedEx. And I was like, okay, well, if you want to get into the CDL side, like I could be a driver too. I think it was more that he would have to do all the training, and he needed somebody else to back him with that. So that's probably what that was. But either way, it got me to where I'm at now. So forever thankful.
No, that's awesome. So you go to CDL school, met your husband, you guys both get your CDL. Where do you go from there?
So this was like in the height of COVID. And at the time, the school would not let us team drive unless we had our addresses the same. And I lived in Vegas and he lived in San Diego. And I was like, yeah, I can switch my everything to San Diego, and took a chance on my husband and hopped in the truck. I think what really made everything work is that we both had the mindset of trucking. We both in the mindset of being out on the road and doing it. So
And and at the time you were working for that carrier contracted FedEx.
yeah, I was working for FedEx, and I worked at UPS too. I was did loading the trucks and stuff like that. But I was already on that line. I was already doing trucking at the time, so it just made sense. You know.
Awesome. So what are you guys doing now? So you work at FedEx? Are you still doing the same? You guys running the same
So
route?
I just had a baby. So when
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
What a,
you.
what a
Three
what a blessing.
months. Just had a baby. So me and my husband used to drive together, but we used to haul chemicals. So I used to haul ammonia. And so I would go and load up ammonia, and he would go and deliver it. So every day we would West Texas, Oklahoma, you know, that area, and load up ammonia. And then I would come home, take care of the kids, and then he would go and unload it. So every day we would just swap.
You kind of rip back and forth. So you're on like a good
Yeah,
schedule. And
very
is
good
that
schedule.
and that ammonia, was that still through FedEx?
No, I worked with a different hazmat company. I worked my way up. It was like I was doing, the mega carrier situation. When you get into getting your CDL, you're going to go with any mega carrier usually, unless it's like a mom and pop place. But most people that just go from school, they go into like a mega corporation, and then they just get their experience and then find their niche. My niche is hazmat. I love to do hazmat. I was doing liquid asphalt, and running with the big dogs out there doing the inhalation hazard stuff. That's the fun stuff for me. But yeah, me and my husband just kind of worked our way, and we figured out being a tanker yanker was it.
Man, it's crazy because Well, I just did a show on my other podcast with a gentleman who, I mean, that's where he found his
Mhm.
niche. He calls himself Mr. Unamerica. The guy's super interesting. He might be watching on YouTube now if he's free, but he trucks around the country. He travels with a unicycle,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and he rides around on a unicycle. He's working out in the parking lots, and he said ever since he started
Nice.
hauling tanker, he'll never go back to anything else.
Yeah, I'm working right now with Semi Fit. They're a fitness company that is geared for trucking. So they have like all this fitness equipment that you put into your big rig, and it has like door latches and stuff that you can work out in the truck. It's all like fitness bands and things like that. So that's awesome. He has a unicycle. That's great. Like we have to have our fitness out there, you know?
100%. And if you, I mean, for anybody out there watching, that's where a lot of my content was focused when I was driving. That's where I kind of found a niche. So talking about a big shout out to SemiFit. Very glad you brought them up
Yeah.
and mentioned them. I ordered myself a piece of their equipment too, and I might
Yeah,
have
really?
to. Yeah, we might have to run back a live stream where when you're driving or something, if you're out there on the road, we'll set up a time and we can break out exactly what the semi-fit loadout looks like. I'd love
And
to.
their equipment is great, man. It's like they have all of these, like they have bars and belts and bands that are just like, I'm like, this is perfect. If they got that into like mega corporations and just put it in the truck, just to have it. You know what I mean? We sit for 11 hours, 14 hours, you know what I mean? Depending on what you haul, you know? If, unless you're a cattle hauler thing, you're hauling all the time, but you know, I just think it's a great way for us to like get moving, get active, you know?
Yeah, it's a low barrier to entry. It works within your
Mhm.
truck. Again, I didn't know. Like when I went over the road, I had no clue what fitness was going to look like. So I did like the lowest barrier to entry was to start running. You don't need
Yeah.
equipment besides the shoes. But like
Mhm.
now, I mean, I've seen this gentleman's product and it's really like, I mean, I think long term, as you said, like it needs to. I mean, it should be like if a driver's going through school with a large fleet, like a mega carrier,
Yep.
what have you, like upon graduation of the CDL. Well, number one, I think it should be a part of CDL training for
Yes.
sure. Like it should be, I think it should be within the curriculum of CDL school is talking about driver health and fitness.
Mhm.
Not, I think not talking about that in the training process is a grave. I don't think it sets them up for success. Sure, do people get into trucking to for a good job, take care of their family, make money? Yeah, but there's a caveat to that.
Yeah.
You could find yourself not able to make that money because of the rigors of the job. And yeah, it's something that should be issued. Glad you brought that up. You're really tooting my horn on it, which is also so. Speaking of tanker, you said you found your niche.
Mhm.
If we've got some people listening on Instagram, people tuning in wherever. If you were to get so if somebody is tanker curious, is there a
Mhm.
company or is there a route you would tell them to go if they really wanted to get in this line of work? Like, do you have a company shout out? What do you think would be like if you were talking to a new driver or new Irish drivers, tanker curious? How would you tell them to break into it?
So that's a great question because I get that question a lot, especially doing hazmat tanker stuff. A lot of women come up to me like, oh, like I want to get into it, but I'm kind of nervous and this and that. Start off with milk. It's so easy to get into milk. Get your experience with milk. um I think Indian River, but you know what, I was hauling milk when I started with hazmat, and it was like I did pretty much a lot of the things. So I would do like diesel milk, like a lot of stuff with the carrier that I was carrying for. So it wasn't just milk, but if you are going to go into hazmat or start off going into tanker work, as long as you have like 6 months over the road experience, most like milk places will hire you. And I think that's a great way to kind of like get your feet wet, especially with surge and stuff like that. You need to understand the movements of the truck. So milk is a great way to like dip your toes into the industry before you get into like chemical hauling and stuff like that. because that's
No,
a
it's
whole nother ball game.
absolutely. A good friend of the show, friend of the program. Her name's Laura. She calls herself the tiny bull hauler. That was her. She's a bull hauler now, hauls
I love
livestock,
that.
but she that's where she started out, was in the milk business. And here he is. Here's the man. We were just speaking of the devil. He brings himself in, Mr. Ute America. Hopefully he's riding his unicycle right now. He recommends for anybody tanker curious, says Hassel Transportation. They do pay by the hour. And he also mentions oil tankers out there. Appreciate you
Mhm.
jumping in
Love that.
on there for you. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, milk, like the idea of hauling milk to me uh is pretty sick, because I think that, I have this affinity for, there used to be in our parents, grandparents generation, there was the milkman, and now the milkman's
Yep.
gone away. So the last milkmen left are the people who haul it via
Yeah.
tanker. And so it's like, if I was to haul milk, like I would try to wear a milkman uniform while I did it. Like I
The got milk is for real.
Yeah.
I think that just hauling it itself, it's all about that ag exempt, That ag exempt is where it's at, and you can just keep going.
Yeah, no, nothing can stop you. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And so, so currently, wait. So as of right now, though, are you guys driving for a company, or do you own your own truck?
Um, we own our own truck. We are looking at, we got away from our old carrier. Right now, we're kind of up in the air because it just had a baby. And so we're working out what we're going to be doing, because we do kind of want to bring him eventually. So we're looking at going back into dry freight, just general freight, and just kind of slowly get back out there, because I didn't work pretty much the entirety of my pregnancy. My husband was like, nope. But also, I was hauling chemicals. So it was like, the only thing I could have done was milk at the time. And don't get it twisted, you can truck drive when you're pregnant. But with what I was hauling, it was inhalation hazard. So, and I was loading it. So there was no way. But we're looking at going back into dry van stuff. Just ease into it, wait until the baby gets a little bit older, and then go back into the thing I love.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like being pregnant, being around some chemicals might not.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's probably not the best thing in the world.
Not the best thing.
I will say, if you're listening if you're looking at getting into dry freight, we've had some people come on the live stream. We work with some owner operators. They seem to be doing all right at Landstar. I was leased on to Warren Transport. They have a dry van division. They seem to work well with drivers. So shameless plug for those guys. But kind of getting into it though. When was the with your driving career? It's awesome what you did, and congrats on the growth of your family. But I
Thank
got to
you.
ask you, when was the first time you had heard about Truck Parking Club?
So it was during my pregnancy, because my husband was hauling sand out of Odessa, and you know how the whole oil boom and bust goes. And I was up in West Texas, and he was down there, and I during my pregnancy I was driving down there all the time. And we were like, okay, well, if I was gonna have the baby, where are you gonna park the truck? What are you gonna do? What's gonna happen? And we found you guys like instantly, and we're like, oh my gosh, they have so many locations everywhere. And then I was looking into it, and I was like, this is perfect. Like, we're going to use this, so when the baby's born, you know you're just going to pull up in here, and then I'm going to pick you up, or you're going to have to Uber to the hospital. But we never ended up having to do that emergency plan, because he like didn't come out for another 3 weeks after my due date. So I had to be induced, and everything was scheduled. But I was like, man, I really like the layout. It was so easy to access. And I was like, this is like a huge problem for us everywhere. Being 48 states and going like, there's not that much parking in California. But then there's so like little parking when you get to like Georgia or like Maryland, or like, you know what I mean? So it's like, this is perfect. This is what I need. And it's all access right here, and it's on an app. Like, what more do you need?
No, that's awesome. Number one, that might be an absolute first for anybody talking about like why they or how they navigated themselves as Truck Parking Club, like as a possible contingency for childbirth. So
I know, right?
which I think it might be the most incredible thing ever. I think we might have to. I'm gonna have to get with the team. Like, we might have to put that as a bullet point on the website or something. Like for the lady drivers out there. Like, hey,
You can do it.
if
You can do anything.
don't,
I
yeah,
swear. Don't
don't,
limit yourself.
yeah, don't let parking stress you out
Mhm.
from not being able to go into labor. Like we've got your back.
I'm a driver, but I know that there's a lot of women out there who are not drivers, who stay at home and who are, they're stay at home moms, or they have jobs themselves and they do not drive and they don't drive trucks. And, there are a lot of women out there who are wives that, have husbands that are on the road that do not make it to births. And people don't see it like that. But, there's another side of it, for women drivers and stay-at-home moms that support their husbands that are truck drivers. So
I think that's a valid point. Like, there's some, I mean, on TikTok alone, there's a lot of, that's the quite the trucker's lament there is missing, missing important moments in life. And I think, for the birthdays that are missed and like the holidays
Christmas, Thanksgivings, we miss them all. We
and
miss them
yeah,
all.
the,
Don't let
the
parking be the reason.
bingo. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a whole that opens up a whole new piece of the pie chart for really talking about this. Like, if you want to get home, like, we've had some drivers say that on the show where they were like, hey, I found, I was able to find a location on Truck Parking Club. They've used this so they can go on vacation, or so
Yeah.
they're able to get themselves home in case of some sort of emergency. And I think that it's good that that didn't go unsaid tonight, because yeah, you're right. Like, if a driver does have a wife who is pregnant, and all of a sudden they're in this time lapse, and she lives in they're in Maryland, but he's out trucking in
Hmm.
Nevada, and all of a sudden gets the phone call, the water breaks. It's like, you can't just
I
park anywhere,
No.
but we've got some spots. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad that it got dished out on the live stream. Appreciate Mr. Unamerica again popping in again. Yes, you can search us for some of our locations on Google Maps. And Dan German, thanks for jumping in on LinkedIn. Appreciate you out there coming in Monday Night Clubhouse. But other than that, I mean, any other time. So West Texas, by the way, is another one of our partners. He came on here. He had a similar situation, not a similar situation as to possibly giving birth, but he was his trucks were parked on a shoulder. He was out in West
Mhm.
Texas, and you're right, it gets busy out there. Places get
Yep.
full. It's kind of spread out, and he was under the threat of getting, like, he had 6 trucks parked on the side of the street, and he was going to get 6 tickets. But the guy, the cop was nice to him, and he ended up finding some of our locations, some of our locations out there. Had a question pop up on Instagram. Gentleman asking, 18-wheelers drive and park on gravel parking lots? The answer for you, Zanel52, is yes. I've parked on many gravel parking lots. Obviously, you always want to get out and look, walk around, check the scenery. I mean, normally gravel is pretty good. A lot of truck parking club locations will be listed on the amenities that they are, in fact, gravel lots as opposed to paved or what have you. But I mean, there's several gravel lots, even there's a couple of travels. I believe there's a Workman's up in Arkansas 49 that I've parked at a few times. That's a gravel parking lot. And hello, Sal Lopez from California. But so there we go. Yeah. Any other recent times you've had to jump on the app at all to find some truck parking?
To refer to other people, like, I'm on TikTok, trailer slinging at night, and we go in these trucker lives with what's the ETA, and he's usually the host, and we talk to a lot of new drivers that that the parking situation is just crazy out there. um and everything gets full, and I'm talking about as soon as 4 o'clock hits, good luck, you know what I mean, trying to find a spot. And so this working together and finding, there's 2,800 locations and counting, like, that's 2,800 more locations than we had with TA or Loves or Pilot or whatever, and those are just the major ones. But it's just nice that we have that available.
No, that's awesome. And it's good to know, especially for new drivers. I'd say that's definitely an area. It's definitely an area to be in. I remember, and I bring this up almost every time. Like the first load I took, which went from Irving, Texas, to Montebello, California, and I had never driven that highway in a truck ever
Yeah.
before, and you let the time run away from you. You're trying to get a certain amount of miles, and I remember being so grateful because I did. I think I pulled into about two truck stops, and it was already dark out. They were all full, and then I was on like a frontage road, service road, and I was in Sierra Blanca, Texas, and got to a red light, saw a big banner next to a restaurant that said truck parking, and had like 15 minutes left. But I mean, I'll never forget that sort of like anxiety and like doom and gloom you can have
Yeah.
over parking, especially for the drivers that are 0 to 3 months, 0 to 6 months have you. It's a huge thing. So jumping out there on the TikTok live. Yes, by the way, for anybody tuning in, if you're on TikTok, go search Trailer Slinging at Night. Some great content that they post. But kind of going into, so we know that parking's an issue. I do got to ask you. Actually, before I get to my last question, gentleman's asking. He's asking about property. He says, I have two lots that I'm not allowed to have pavement on the lots. I was wondering if I can throw gravel on there. Yes, sir. You can. Feel free to give our property team a call. Happy shoot us a DM message. We'd love to put you in touch. But anyways, back to you, Joe. What is, besides parking, which we talked about, what do you think is either the number one issue in the industry, or if there's one thing you can wave a magic wand and it would be solved, what would you do? Or what is that problem?
I think now, because the FMCSA changed the law where you can't learn from your grandpa or somebody else, you know what I mean? Like it's not a like a the brotherhood is kind of disconnected in that sense. I think training, for me personally, the FFCSA changed the training law to you have to go to an accredited school. And these accredited schools, most of them, not saying all of them, but most of them don't even show you how to swing a trailer, quite literally. So I think as a new driver, your training is so very important because you're not accustomed to being up for that long, driving for that long. And in the United States, we have different ecosystems. We have mountains, we have different terrains, we have snow, monsoon season. I don't think that there's enough training. And I think that the way that they train it in these accredited schools, there's no like trucker courtesy or how to use a CB segment. You know what I mean? So I feel like the training in school versus your real life training is so far different, and we need to close that gap. You know?
No, I think that's well said. I think there's a lot of people tuning in who probably share that sentiment. I think the idea of uh, I think the idea of the school, what the schools are doing is they're training people how to pass a test.
Yeah, 100%. It's a
Like
it's a money scheme for most of them.
I think you're very right on that. I think we kind of bring some of that stuff up in the newsletter. There's definitely a kind of like a money circulating of however the schools are being funded, wherever where some certain dollars are coming from. They're incentivized to get X number of students through, however it
Yeah.
works. And yeah, for the most part, when it comes to some of these schools, I mean, it seems like I don't know how I don't know how they're regulated, like the how and why of like how they're
Yeah.
regulated, how they're accredited, what the what is required of the kind of the course curriculum. But I think the school should set you up for the job. Obviously, not everybody
Yeah.
going to CDL school is going over the road, but for the most part, like maybe there should be separate ones. Maybe it should be separate. I think that there's an argument for graduated licensing. So
Yeah.
so when it comes to this training, if you were to open up, or if you were to change the system, like if you were to set the standard of CDL training, what are some things, like how would Joe's CDL school, what would that look like?
There would be coursework on driver courtesy. you know, just letting someone in, let your foot off the gas, my friend. um and also, you're a lot of these driver trainers that are out there, man, some of them, your trainer or like your trainee is backing, and I see the trainer in the truck on their phone, like, no, you know what I mean? Like, we need trainers that are not just training for the money, that only have 6 months experience behind the wheel, because you need more training yourself, in my opinion. I feel like even I, having driver training experience, but non-CDL wise, I still don't really feel like I'm qualified to train somebody. Um, because I haven't been out there, I haven't done my time for 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 years, you know what I mean? I feel like somebody that has really been through it all, who has a high level of experience, who has been out there for a long period of time, who genuinely loves to drive. Because you have drivers out there that just do it for the money, and you're not going to last long, because driving truck is not about just the money. Most of us, it's a way of life. It's a way of life. It's our life. It's our way of life. And if we want the roads to be safer out there, there has to be better training for the new drivers, right? So,
Absolutely. I think great point Mr. Unamerica brings up. He says being able to read a map instead of just using the
a
GPS.
100%. My Atlas has saved me countless times, because I had hazmat and I can't be on every road. So I had to use a road atlas, in okey doke in the back roads. And then my sleeper airbag breaks and I'm trying to fix something. But now I know I can, limp it over here, limp it over there, because I had a Atlas. It's perfect.
It's perfect. And quick shout out, in case you need parking for hazmat, you can cycle through those amenities on the Truck Parking Club app. That's a little tidbit. I had to throw the shameless plug out. So driver training, that yeah, tops the list as number one thing. I know it's tough to put on because CDLs are granted by the state, but could does this need to be? But we have the FMCSA, we have DOT. Should the driver training? I mean, I think one of the biggest things. You're right. There's an endurance to driving that you need,
Yes,
whether you're OTR or local. And I'd have to imagine the fatigue being local. And because I've never driven local, I've
I have.
driven, yeah,
Yeah.
I drove local when I was actually training for a carrier I was working for out of Northwest Arkansas. As I was waiting for a trainer to get back from, like, he was out, like I had to wait a
Out
couple
on the
days.
road and coming back.
Yeah, he was coming back,
Yeah.
so I was able to drive. I drove the day cab that they had. They had like a 10-speed Volvo, and I went out
Okay.
with one of their local drivers, and which I thought was awesome. Which I think
Yeah.
that, I'm almost on the, kind of on the side of like more forms of graduated licensing, because I think local driving could cause a lot more of fatigue,
Yeah.
like from just the amount of, like, from the lights, from the turns, from the stop and go, from the loading and unloading, and you're working like your full clock a lot of times local, where it's like
Yeah.
OTR, you could be driving your full 11, but sometimes you're driving 8 to 10, so you can either run recaps or whatever. So I mean, the endurance that you do need to get out there is something that I don't think is covered all that well in school. And then yeah, the handling, like I think that the trailers, some of the drive time you get in school, the trailer should be loaded. Like
It depends on the state too, because like in San Diego, I did local, but I did beer. So I hauled beer. So that in itself, and shout out to anybody that does Pepsi, Coca-Cola, beer. It's a hard job. It's a very hard job. And I would haul kegs and lift kegs all day. And doing that physical work, right? Because I'm in San Diego, so it's like a lot of craft beer and stuff like that. Doing that physical work and then having to drive for that long and then stop and go traffic and all of these things, it gets very tiring, very tiring.
boom. Dropping a comment. Miss Tiffany Rose was asking a property question for there, so I want to shoot that answer out there. But yes, very tiring at all, or very tiring doing those beer kegs. I see those
Hmm.
people driving around Austin all the time.
Yeah.
Any of the local beverage people driving for Pepsi, Coke. That's a, I mean, yeah, that's some back breaks.
Give
The
your give your yourself a pat on the back. That's a hard job. Been there, done that. That's a hard job.
The touch freight is tough. Well,
Mhm.
let's see. So, I mean, so driver training, your issue. What would you say? So, next to driver training, what would be number two?
Oh, well, we got parking. I think like our representation and how we are out there. I mean, there are going to be a few bad apples, but if you just change that outlook, I think that we do get a really bad rap out there. Um, it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do, right? So if you're at a truck stop, pick up some trash. I'm sorry, but like help somebody out, help another driver out. You know what I mean? I think that our outlook to the public has been pretty rough lately in the recent news. And I think that I want to get back to that brotherhood and that like kids out the window, like our perception to the public, because it's not just a big burly guy driving a truck. You got people like me driving a truck. You got a whole bunch of girls out there now driving trucks and have been driving trucks. But I think that our perception to the overall public, if we had a better perception with the overall public, it would be our way of driving might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I think when it comes to yeah, the idea when it because that's the thing with trucking, it only hits the news
Yep.
whenever there's
When
something
it's
bad
bad.
going on. Yeah, they're either going to talk about the toilet paper, they're going to talk about
Mhm.
tariffs. Oh, this is it's just costs
Yeah.
going up. Like they're going, whenever gas price, yeah, if it bleeds, it leads is the only time when
Yeah.
really I think the everyday accolades and everyday lives of drivers should be talked about more, which is why I still do my podcast, the Lombard Trucking Show, and it's why we started doing this live show on Monday is to talk to drivers because now we have we have these good drivers on the record. We
Yeah.
have we have your stories out there on the road, which is more important
Mhm.
as opposed to the stories of the people who are causing accidents, who are leaving the garbage out. Super, super important.
Very, I think very, very important. I think the perspective of us with the overall public, it being changed or it being different, would, the respect for drivers is so different in comparison to how it was before.
Absolutely, I'm with you. So yeah, before we sign off, what would be final words of wisdom that you would have if you were whether you're maybe if you were talking to somebody who is interested in getting into driving, they're thinking about trucking as a career. It's a woman who's thinking about getting into trucking. Your final words of wisdom, piece of advice you'd share to a new driver.
I always say get all of your endorsements because you never know what niche you're going to fall into. You should get everything. And I don't know, just respect each other out there. Really. Um, Learn from the old heads, really take advice from other people. I feel like a lot of people don't, um, when they need help, they don't ask for help. And then they don't, it's a circle, it's a cycle. I think that we could learn from one another and try and build back that brotherhood. And you can't just be out here for money. If you're a new driver, you can't be out here just for money. There is always going to be an obstacle. Money comes and goes. There has to be something a driving force of passion that makes you want to stay out here and, be safe with the public and be safe for yourself. I think that's definitely a huge thing that we have to work on.
Absolutely, well said. No, that's great. Fire me up on a Monday, why don't you?
Yeah.
That is some good words of wisdom out there. Number one, I want to thank you for coming on the Clubhouse Monday. Not going to be definitely not going to be the last time either. We're definitely going to have to we're definitely going to have to reconnect on
Yes, for sure.
how things are going, especially when you get back over the road.
I'm
Especially,
so excited. I can't wait.
yeah, and we're
I
gonna
cannot wait.
I could tell you seem to be itching to get back behind the wheel, but definitely enjoy the time now with your child. And for those of you guys who are tuning in live, number one, if you couldn't tell just by listening to how Joe speaks, Joe is an individual that clearly wants to lead this industry better than they found it, and as a community builder, you go in on the TikTok lives. You want to bring community back.
Women in trucking, shout out.
It,
Follow them, women in trucking. Yep.
like community, all that sort
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. And that's all stuff that's really needed. And that's exactly what falls right in line with our mission at Truck Parking Club. At Truck Parking Club, our mission is to help truckers save time, fuel, and money by efficiently finding and reserving truck parking all across the United States. We firmly believe in trying to leave this industry better than we found it, which is why we partner and work with individuals such as Joe. And so if you guys, number one, go follow her on TikTok, Trailer Slinging at Night. If you need some truck parking, you've got the promo code Trailer20 at the bottom of the screen. But with that, guys, we will be back next week, next Monday, 7:30 p.m. for the Clubhouse. Take care, stay safe. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to